On a cool October morning in rural Pennsylvania, a 27-year-old woman laced up her running shoes, started her fitness app, and went out for a quick 5-mile jog along the same country backroads she'd used 100 times before. Her GPS tracker recorded 7:02 a.m., leaving her driveway, 7:17 a.m., turning onto County Road 16, 7:29 a.m., pace steady, heart rate normal. And then, for the next 47 minutes, something impossible happened. The GPS showed her crossing streets that don't exist, past businesses that no one has ever heard of, through a small town with a name that appears on no map, no registry, and no state record. When she arrived back home at 8:16 a.m., she was shaking, soaked to the skin though the sky was clear, and holding a paper receipt from a diner that had allegedly burned down in 1985. The name printed at the top of that receipt. Welcome to Millersfield, where time stands still. Police called it stress. Her friends called it a breakdown. Her GPS log said something else. This is the story of the jogger who ran into a town that isn't on any map, and why some investigators now quietly mark a section of rural Pennsylvania as a place you don't run alone. Her name was Erin Calloway. She lived in a rented farmhouse just outside the small town of Holliston, Pennsylvania, about 90 minutes from Pittsburgh. It was the kind of place where the mornings smelled like wet leaves and wood smoke, and the roads were empty except for the occasional pickup truck or tractor. Erin worked from home as a graphic designer. To keep herself sane, she ran. Same route, 3 mornings a week, out of the driveway, left on County Road 12, right at the old grain silo. Follow the curve of County Road 16 until her fitness app chimed 5 miles. Then turn around and head back. Her Strava profile was full of the same loop over and over. A few minor variations. A hill repeat here and there, but nothing dramatic. No trail running. No exploring. She liked knowing exactly where she'd be when the sun rose above the line of trees. On October 21st, she set out expecting the same familiar run. Her roommate, Tessa, watched her from the kitchen window, coffee mug in hand, and waved. 5 miles, she called. 5 miles, Erin answered. Back in 45, she started her playlist. The app began tracking her route. Pace, steady, breathing easy. It was, by all accounts, a normal morning, until it wasn't. The first 15 minutes of the run were exactly what Erin expected. Cool air cutting her lungs, damp grass lining the ditch. The occasional dog bark drifts from a distant yard. Her GPS log shows her moving at an even 9-minute mile, tracking along County Road 12, then turning onto 16. The elevation line on the app rises and falls exactly where it should, matching the gentle slope she knew by heart. At 7:18 a.m., about 1.5 miles from home, she noticed a low mist forming over the fields. That in itself wasn't unusual. It was late October in western Pennsylvania. Fog was part of the landscape, but this fog didn't behave like any she'd seen before. In her later statement, she described it like this. It didn't roll in. It didn't drift. It just appeared. One moment, the air was clear. Next moment, the road ahead was soft and blurry, like someone had smudged the world with their thumb. Her phone log confirms that light levels dropped suddenly. The ambient light sensor recorded a sharp dip, as if the sun had gone behind a cloud, even though the forecast that morning was clear. On the recording later pulled from her running app's audio notes, a feature she sometimes used to leave herself reminders. You can hear her voice between the songs. Ha, that's weird. Where did this fog come from? Then she laughs nervously. She doesn't turn around. She keeps going. At 7:21 a.m., her GPS shows her passing the old grain silo. At 7:23 a.m., her route veers, slightly off course. Her usual path curves left, staying on County Road 16. On this run, the line on the map curves right into an area the app labels with nothing at all. Just blank, pale green. Looking back, Erin insists she did what she always did. I followed the road, she told investigators. It bent right. There was a sign. Millersfield, 2 miles. I'd never noticed it before, but it was just there. I thought maybe I'd missed it on other runs. She remembered the sign vividly. White background, green letters, reflective coating. Standard Pennsylvania style. Below the town name, a little slogan, "Where time stands still." Her GPS log shows her turning right at 7:23 and 40 seconds a.m. The pace line wobbles briefly. She slowed for a second, then resumed her stride. Tessa would later swear there is no road there. State maps show only one paved path, County Road 16, curving left. The area to the right is marked as private farmland and a stand of scrubby woods. Satellite imagery from the weeks before the run shows fields, a tree line, and a creek. No road, no sign, no town. But Erin's GPS doesn't just show her in an empty field. It tracks her along a grid. At 7:28 a.m., it logs a slight incline and a right turn. At 7:30 a.m., another left, a brief straightaway, and a series of short, regular turns, like residential blocks. The elevation data stays consistent with the region. Her heart rate ticks up as if she's climbing a gentle hill. Her running cadence remains steady. From the data alone, it looks like she's running through a small town. From every map we have, she's running through empty land. The first thing she noticed was the sound. Country runs are quiet, tires on gravel, a distant lawnmower, birds. This wasn't that. As she came out of the fog, Erin heard the low murmur of voices. A radio is playing somewhere, the rattle of a delivery truck, the clang of a metal screen door. She looked up and saw houses. Two-story clapboard homes with small porches and hanging flower baskets. Narrow sidewalks lined with mailboxes. Power lines sagging slightly overhead. In later interviews, she described it as walking into a postcard from 1980. The cars parked along the street were old but not ancient. A boxy blue Ford pickup, a beige sedan with squared-off headlights, a station wagon with fake wood paneling. License plates were Pennsylvania style, but the number she tried to recall later, S47-39K, maybe 39M, never matched any registered vehicles. She slowed to a jog, turned down her music, and pulled out one earbud. Children's voices drifted from somewhere. A dog barked. A street sign at the corner read, Elm St. A metal placard bolted beneath it, Millersfield Borough, EST 1924. She turned in a slow circle, confused. Where did this come from? She whispered to herself. Her GPS shows her stopping for 18 seconds. Then, for reasons she couldn't explain, she kept running. Every small town has a center of gravity. A church, a school, a diner. For Millersfield, it was Ruby's Diner. Erin saw it as she rounded the corner onto what her GPS later labeled as Main ST, despite there being no such listing. The sign was old, letters half burned out. RUBYSDIN_R. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed. A neon open sign in the window flickered. She could smell bacon grease and coffee even from the sidewalk. In her written statement, she remembered every detail. It felt stuck, like no one had updated anything since 1985. The menus at the windows were sun-faded. There was a paper help wanted dishwasher sign taped crooked on the glass. I saw people inside. I swear I did. A waitress in a pink uniform. A man in a trucker cap is at the counter. But when I blinked, they weren't there anymore. Her GPS shows her slowing to a walk in front of the diner at 7:33 a.m. An automatic audio note records over her background music. This is so weird. Is this a new development? Did they build this here? She claimed she tried to check Google Maps, but her phone showed no service. Even though she'd had 4 bars 10 minutes earlier, the clock inside the diner, mounted above the counter, read 7:02. Her watch read 7:34. On impulse, half curiosity, half unease, she pushed open the door to Ruby's Diner. The bell above the frame jingled. The diner's interior lights were on. The coffee was steaming. Every stool at the counter sat empty. "Hello?" No one answered. She stepped further inside. Her GPS shows a brief stall in movement. She'd paused her run, but the app continued tracking her position. As she reached the middle of the diner, a a woman stepped out from the kitchen. She wore a pale pink waitress uniform with a white apron. Her hair was pinned up, and a pencil was tucked behind one ear. She walked right past Erin, grabbed a coffee pot, and refilled a mug at the counter. The mug sat in front of a man in a trucker cap and plaid shirt, who stared straight ahead as if listening to something Erin couldn't hear. There were 6 other customers, an older couple in a corner booth, a teenager in a Letterman jacket. A woman in a floral dress is stirring sugar into tea. None of them looked at her, not when she shifted her weight, not when she said, louder, "Excuse me." In her recounting, Erin described the sensation like standing behind glass. I felt like I was there, but not there. Like I was watching them replay a scene they'd lived 100 times. She approached the counter. The menu behind the stools listed prices that made no sense in 2023. Coffee, 50 cents. Cheeseburger, $1.95. Slice of pie, 75 cents. On the far wall, a calendar showed October 1985. "Is this some kind of themed town?" she muttered. Nobody answered. She reached for a napkin at the counter. Her fingers touched the dispenser. It was solid, cold, real. The man in the trucker cap lifted his mug and murmured, "Storm's rolling in." Though the sky outside was clear, the waitress set a check down on the counter. Her hand brushed Erin's. For the first time, someone reacted. The waitress flinched, eyes snapping up to meet Erin's. Behind her pupils, something like static flickered. Then, very softly, she said, "You're not supposed to be here." The moment the waitress spoke, the air in Ruby's changed. The radio cut to static. The lights flickered. The other patrons froze mid-motion, spoons hovering above cups, burgers halfway to mouths. For a heartbeat, the entire diner looked like a paused video. Erin tried to back away. Her shoes stuck slightly to the floor, as if the linoleum had turned tacky. The waitress stared at her, really stared, like someone waking from a deep sleep. "Back door," the woman whispered. "Run." Erin's heart rate monitor spiked. Her GPS log shows a sudden increase in pace, her steps turning from a walk to a sprint. But before she could move, the waitress grabbed her wrist and pushed something into her palm. It was a receipt, thermal paper, warm like it had just come out of a machine. Erin glanced at it. It read, "Ruby's Diner, Millersfield, Pa. Coffee, $0.50. Toast, $0.40. Total, $0.90. October 21st, 85, 7:02 a.m. She looked up. The calendar on the wall still read October 1985. The waitress's face blurred at the edges, like a bad video compression artifact. In the reflection of the diner's front window, Erin saw the shape of herself standing there, and behind her, rows of empty booths. No customers, no waitress, no mugs, no food, yet she could feel the receipt in her hand. The waitress leaned in close and said, more forcefully, "Run, before it notices you." "What does?" Erin asked. "The town," the woman answered. Then, in the reflection, everything snapped back to empty. Chairs pushed in, the lights dimmer, no one behind the counter. The only thing that hadn't changed was the weight of the receipt in Erin's hand. She bolted. Her GPS shows her moving toward the back of the diner at 7:35 and 12 seconds a.m. The back door of Ruby's Diner opened into an alley. Trash cans, cat darting under a fence, the sharp smell of rain, even though the sky above still showed a pale, washed-out blue. Erin didn't see another person. Her app map continued to log turns and corners, labeling them with generic names that don't appear on any Pennsylvania database. Oak Street, Pine Avenue, Railroad Lane. As she ran, the world around her grew quieter. No cars, no birdsong, no wind, only the slap of her shoes and the thud of her heart. Houses lined the streets, but their windows looked wrong. Some had curtains drawn tight. Others reflected nothing at all, like black mirrors. The further she went, the more the town felt like a set, real enough up close, but hollow when you looked from the side. She turned a corner and nearly collided with a man in a sheriff's uniform. He wore a tan shirt, a star on his chest, and a name tag that read H. Granger. His face was weathered, his hair cropped short, his expression oddly neutral. "Oh, thank God," she gasped. "I'm lost. I don't know how I got here. I was running and..." He raised a hand. "You came in on the fog," he said calmly. "You're not the first." "The first what?" she demanded. "Outsider." He tilted his head. "You need to leave before it decides to keep you." "What is it?" Erin asked. He looked past her, toward the center of town. His gaze lingered on something she couldn't see. A faint shimmer in the air, a distortion like heat waves above asphalt. "The thing that holds us here," he said softly. "The thing that doesn't like being remembered." He pointed down the street. "Run straight. Don't look back. If you hear your name, keep going." She hesitated. "What if I..." His voice hardened. "Run." Her GPS shows her sprinting in a straight line for the next 11 minutes. Behind her, on the audio recording, the ambient static rises. Somewhere in the noise, if you listen carefully, a woman's voice seems to say, "Erin, stop." She doesn't. Not yet. The edges of Millersfield began to blur. Houses melted into treelings. Pavement crumbled into gravel. Streetlights stretched taller, then thinner, then vanished entirely. As Erin ran, the fog returned. Not thick this time, but streaked in narrow bands across the road, like she was passing between curtains. Her lungs burned. Her shoes slapped the surface that felt less and less like asphalt and more like nothing. She described it later as running on a photograph of a road. Her GPS altitude readings flickered wildly for a full 30 seconds, jumping up and down in impossible increments. 50 feet here, -3 there, as if the device couldn't decide where the ground was. On her wrist, her watch vibrated. The fitness app chimed. 5 miles complete. Great job. Cool down. On the audio track, you can hear her laugh, half hysterical. "Not now," she wheezes. Ahead, a shape emerged from the thinning fog. A stop sign. Below it, another green road marker. County Road 16. The fields on either side looked familiar. The sagging fences. The rusted mailbox with a dent in the side. The crooked oak tree she always used as a mental halfway point. At 8:09 a.m., her GPS shows her rejoining her usual route. She doubled over, hands on her knees, and sobbed. Behind her, for 3 full seconds, the Strava heat map shows a cluster of red points. Like the route line didn't know whether to go forward or backward. Then the fog dissolved. The road was empty. When she finally reached her driveway at 8:16 a.m., Tessa claims she looked like she'd been caught in a storm. Hair plastered to her forehead, clothes damp, shoes muddy with the dark, fine silk that didn't match any soil around the farmhouse. "What happened?" Tessa asked. Erin held up the receipt. "I think," she said, voice shaking, "I ran into a town that doesn't exist." The local sheriff's department didn't know what to do with Erin's report. On paper, it sounded like a panic attack or a stress-induced hallucination. She'd been under deadlines. She'd been sleeping poorly. Maybe she'd gotten turned around in the fog and frightened herself. But there were problems with that explanation. First, the GPS data. Tex pulled the raw file from her watch and phone. There was no sign of tampering. The coordinates tracked a route that deviated sharply from her usual pattern into an area that, according to satellite maps, was empty. Yet the data points didn't sit randomly in a field. They formed a grid, intersecting at right angles, consistent with streets. Second, the receipt. The paper showed Ruby's Diner in Millersfield, PA. The date printed was October 21st, 1985. The ink had not faded. The thermal paper was warm to the touch when she first handed it over. Lab analysis later showed it was indistinguishable in age and composition from a receipt printed within the last 24 hours. Third, the name. Sheriff's Deputy Calvin Moore had grown up in the area. When he saw the word Millersfield, his face went tight. He remembered stories his grandfather used to tell about a town up the road, a little place that never made it past the 80s. A mining accident, a factory closure, people moving away. But when he tried to look it up, he found nothing. No census records, no property sales, no archived news. It wasn't that the town had closed down. It was as if it had been erased. He quietly reached out to state police, who quietly reached out to someone else. Within a week, a pair of men from the Department of Homeland Security arrived, asking for Erin's GPS file and the receipt. They never gave them back. The official line became, very quickly, that Erin had experienced a dissociative episode during strenuous activity. Her case file was marked, no criminal element found, mental health referral recommended. But behind closed doors, others kept digging. A retired geography professor from Penn State, upon hearing the story from a former student, went hunting through old paper atlases. In a 1978 county map, tucked near the binding, just north of Holliston, he found a faint dot and a name, Millersfield. In a 1982 road atlas, the same spot was marked simply Millers. In all later editions, the dot was gone. Freedom of information requests sent to the state turned up nothing. No incorporation papers, no borough dissolution, no infrastructure plans. Yet postal logs from 1970 to 1985 referenced a now-defunct zip code assigned to Millersfield Rural RT2. The land where the town should have been was, officially, unassigned agricultural. Erin tried to go back once. 2 weeks after the run, at dawn, she drove to the intersection where she turned. No fog, no road, just a freshly plowed field stretching out to a line of trees. She walked along the edge, receipt in her hand. Halfway down the fence, she found a rusted mailbox half buried in the dirt. The name on it was almost illegible, but she swore it read, H. Granger. When she turned to call Tessa over, the box crumbled, collapsing in on itself like rotten cardboard. By the time they dug around in the soil, there was nothing left but flakes of rust. Today, Millersfield does not exist on any map. If you search it, you'll find nothing official, just scattered forum posts, anonymous messages, and the occasional shaky Reddit thread about a runner who found a ghost town. The DHS never commented. The state police quietly shelved the inquiry. The sheriff's office closed the file with a note about no proof of criminal activity. But the people who live near Holliston will tell you 3 things. 1. Fog settles thickest along County Road 16 in October. 2. Some GPS devices glitch near the old grain silo and log short impossible detours. 3. Every few years, someone claims to see lights where there should be none. Street lights, faint and far away, hanging in midair above a dark field. As for Erin, she moved away within 6 months. She doesn't run alone anymore. Sometimes, late at night, she takes the Ruby's Diner receipt out of the box where she keeps it and runs her thumb over the faded print. The date never changes. The total never changes. The slogan at the top never changes. Welcome to Millersfield, where time stands still. When people ask her if she thinks it was all in her head, she gives the same answer. If it was a hallucination, why did Homeland Security take my data? She asks. Why did someone erase that town from every record they could, except the one that got loose on my watch? Then she adds one more detail she hadn't told the sheriff. On some nights, when her phone is charging on the nightstand and the room is dark, her fitness app gives a quiet notification. New route suggestion near you, Millersfield Loop. The map is always blank. The route is always marked in a faint, flickering gray line. And at the top, in small text, it says, 5.0 miles, estimated time, 47 minutes. The exact amount of time she was gone. The question isn't just whether Millersfield ever existed. It's this, if a town doesn't want to be on a map, what happens to people who keep trying to put it back on one? Subscribe for more long-form, faceless stories that blur the line between crime, conspiracy, and the unexplained.